It's on. You can. Okay, everybody, welcome to the first non-commutative geometry seminar of this academic year. Fantastically, we're all able to do it in person. They're even better, though there were still some of you joining us online, some of the old faces or old names, at least we recognize from last year. Yeah, so I think we will continue in this format for the rest of the year in a hybrid, as most people seem to be doing around the world, of in-person and online. And yeah, for all of friends across the world, we hope you continue joining us. So this week's seminar is going to be Freddie Diaz, who started a postdoc here, will be here for 1 year and part of the non-commutative geometry and topology group. And he's going to give the first seminar in the series, and it's the Dalbo-Dirac spectral triple for the B2 irreducible quantum Planck manifold. Okay, thanks.
Can you hear me well? First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation. So today I'm going to talk about the construction of the Dalbo-Dirac spectral triple for the quantum Planck manifold of type B2. So this is the list of the this is the plan for the lecture for this talk. So first I'm going to give a brief motivation for quantum groups and quantum Planck manifolds, and after that I'm going to give a brief definition of spectral triples, and finally I'm going to give a quick explanation of the calculations we had with my collaborators, and this is a joint work with Raymond and Elmar Wagner. So first we have the motivation for the non-commutative geometry, and how can I and first we have the Helfand-Naimarr theorem, the Helfand-Naimarr correspondence between compact Hausdorff spaces and commutative C-star algebras. So this gives us a correspondence between the Helfand-Naimarr is a correspondence theorem between the compact Hausdorff spaces and C-star algebra, but we want to know if we have a compact Riemannian spin manifold. So if we have more properties for the space for my space. So what requirements do we need to add to have a dual object for this compact Riemannian spin manifold? So these objects are the spectral triple plus some conditions, which are the axioms. So this is the reconstruction theorem of of align cons. So this is the motivation for the to consider the deformations of some of the of compact Hausdorff spaces. So we want to put the quantum spaces of the Q deformation of topological spaces. We want to put these objects into the COMS framework of non-commutative geometry. So for this, we need the construction, as we said, as I said before, we need the construction of spectral triples, and for this, we need the construction of Dirac of a Dirac operator for the Q for the quantum space. So along the story of the construction of Dirac of these Dirac operators for quantum spaces, we have so far two approaches, which are the isospectral deformation, which are the construction of Dirac operators with classical spectrum. So and the other approach is the differential notions. So I mean in this approach, we consider the construction of the differential calculus for my quantum space. So in this talk, we consider this approach, the construction of the differential calculus for my quantum Planck manifold. So I'm going to recall some facts about the Riefel-Jimbo quantum groups. So for this, we have the definition of the quantized enveloping algebra. So for this, we consider a complex simple Lie algebra with roots alpha A and Cartan matrix Aij. And we have some definitions with the Qs, the Q deformation, for the Q deformation, and some relations of the for the quantum enveloping algebra, and some Serre, the Serre relation. So now now we want to consider the Q deformation of the coordinate algebras for the a Lie algebra. So for this, we consider the usual definitions of by an algebra de Hopf. It is an Hopf algebra generated by the matrix coefficient. here the matrix coefficients are the coefficients given by the finite dimensional OQ modules. So the the coefficients comes from the irreducible representations of highest weight, or they are called representations of type 1. So in this way, we define the OQU, the Q deformation of the coordinate algebra, by the algebra de Hopf of OQ, of the dual of OQG generated by the C's, where mu is a dominant weight. So and this algebra is called the quantum coordinate algebra of G, where G is the unique simply connected Lie group having G has its complex the algebra. It's not working. Okay, thank you. So why do we need to consider the quantum Flack manifold? So in the literature, there are many results about the calculation, about the construction and calculation of Dirac, the Tolbert-Dirac operator. So by Heckenberg et al., we have that the quantum Flack manifold of irreducible type, which I'm going to define in the next slides. So these quantum Flack manifolds admit a unique Q deformed de Rham complex. So this is they gave a canonical construction for a Q deformed the Rham complex, and they also show that the Q analog the Rham complex behaves like the classical case. So for this reason, we could say that the quantum Flack manifolds seem to fit well into the Comte's framework of non-commutative geometry. So that's why I'm going to we are going to focus only on the deformations of quantum Flack manifolds. So for to define the quantum Flack manifold, we consider a subset of roots for the associated to the quantum list of algebra, and sorry, we define the quantum Levis algebra as the subalgebra of OQG generated by the all the Ki's, but only the EJs where J is in S. So now we consider the dual of the embedding map. So and we consider the mat PS, which is the restriction of the OQG to the we to OQ is we define pi S as the restriction of the dual of the and of this embedding map I, and we define the quantum analog of the Levy of the coordinate algebra of the Levy subgroup has the image of the this map. So we have to have I here in some state. So from this map, we can define the space of coinvariants with respect to the OQLS. So in this way, we define the deformation of the coordinate algebra for the quantum Planck manifold GLS as a subspace of coinvariant elements. So this is a quantum version of the definition of functions in the quotient GLS. So we have descriptions of in the classical in the classical case, we have that a description of this function of GLS as the functions which are right invariant with respect the right translation with respect to translation to of the elements of group of the group LS. So by in this talk, I'm going to focus in this description of the quantum Planck manifold as the invariant elements with respect to a left action. Where this left action is defined by this term. We are using the Swiftler notation, and dual pairing between OQG and the OQ. We are using the pairing between the quantum coordinate algebra of G and the OQG, the quantum enveloping algebra. So if we say that quantum Planck manifold is of irreducible type if my subset S of my subset S of simple roots are of if S has this form where AS is the root with coefficient one in the highest weight of G. So in this table with the different diagrams, we have that the black node denote the root A alpha S. So we want to
Isn't that you pick out these particular nodes? These manifolds are Kähler manifolds classically, so they're compact, they're complex.
Yeah.
They have a Kähler structure. And these specific ones are the ones that are also symmetric manifolds. So it's the intersection of the compact symmetric spaces and the compact homogeneous scalar, the flag manifolds. They're precisely those nodes, classically at least. So to make some sense of why we're picking out these.
As I mentioned in the first part of the talk, we want to fit these quantum flag manifolds in the Const framework of non-commutative geometries. For this, we need to construct a spectral triple for these quantum flag manifolds. So I'm going to give a quick definition of what a spectral triple is. A spectral triple consists of an star algebra and Hilbert space and a self-adjoint operator acting on the Hilbert space H, where Miss. So can you hear me now? So the motivating example is the for the commutative case. So the motivation example in the commutative world is the Dirac operator, which comes from the Levi-Civita connections for a Riemannian spin manifold, for a compact Riemannian spin manifold. And the algebra is the say infinity functions of M, and the Hilbert space is the space of square integrable sections in the of the spinors bundle, and the Dirac operator is the Dirac operator which can be constructed of the Levi-Civita connection. So another option we have in the non-commutative geometry of aligned cones is the existence of a gradient operator gamma, which satisfies these properties. Gamma square is the identity. Gamma t is minus t gamma, and commutes with the representation. So we, sorry, I mentioned this definition because we have this the system of this map in our spectral ripple. So we also have more symmetry for my spectral ripple. If our algebra is a Hofstadter algebra, is a left U module algebra with a left action U, if where U is a Hofstadter algebra acting on A, we say that our spectral ripple is a U equivariant if there exists another star representation P pi of U, such that these properties hold. We have if the representation pi commutes with the Dirac operator, if this property of compatibility holds with the representation of A, and also it has to commute with the gradient. So now I'm going to give the how we construct the differential calculus for our quantum flat manifold of type B2. So for this, I'm going to give a quick definition of no commutative differential calculus. So we say that a pair of omega bullet G is a differential calculus over an algebra A if omega bullet is a graded algebra with a product which we denote the product by the page, and differential and a differential map G of degree 1, such that d square is 0 and it should satisfy the graded Mild-Magnetic rule, and it is in degree 0 our differential our space of forms of 0 forms are the algebra A, and we can generate the space of n forms with the 0 form. So the motivating example in the classical case is the round complex, the round differential calculus. So we also say that differential calculus is of degree n if or if our base of n forms are not 0, but our space of n forms are 0 for all m greater than n. So this means that we don't have a m form for n greater than n. So we want to require more symmetry in our differential calculus. We say that if we have an Hopf algebra acting of my algebra A, which action denoted by this. We say that the differential calculus is equivariant if the action commutes with the differential. So from this slides, we are going to focus only in the quantum Flach manifold of type B2. In this case, the OQG is the SOQ5, SOQ5, sorry, and our Levy subalgebra is generated only for the case, and the E2 and F2. So we recall here again the definition given by the invariant element. Okay. So in this case, we have a dual pairing. With this dual pairing, we can define a left and right actions, and the inner product of OQ S of I allows us to define a left and right star representation given by this formula. So in the talk, we are not going to use the explicit formula. We only use the existence of this action. So for
sorry, what is H? I maybe misheard. What is H in the previous slide? On the previous.
Is the hard state for the quantum group SO5.
So it's in a representation or in the dual of UQ, or it's a state, yeah? I maybe.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's a hard state for the quantum group.
Just going to be integrating with respect to the Haar measure.
Yeah, the hard. So for the construction of the differential calculus, we take the approach of the BGG, the Bernstein-Helfand the quantum Bernstein-Helfand resolution for the quantum Flack manifold of type B2. So in Heckenberger call paper, we have these modules M00, M02, M12, and M30. There are a lot of notation, but we only want to show how we got some explicit formulas for the differential map. The Bernstein-Helfand resolution tells us that there exists an exact sequence of left OQ SO5 modules. The theorem of the Bernstein-Helfand resolution tells us that exist these maps, these fields, such that this exact sequence is an exact sequence, and these maps are unique up to some scalar. So by using this notation of the x, are the quantum detention space for the differential calculus. So with this with this notation, we have that the maps phi are given by this formulas, and they actually hold the condition of the exact sequence. So now we want to construct the space of the forms. So for this, we consider the locally finite part of this tensor product. So in this lemma, we only give the description of this space of forms, which gives us an explicit an explicit description by tensor products elements of elements of QSFI and the dual of the modules m lambdas. So this description tells us that we need to find what the elements of SOQ5 such that forms M. For example, in this in the one form, this description tells us that the elements AJ forms M02 representation for the Levy factor. So in a similar way, we have the other two forms and three forms. So for the differential, we take the pullbacks of the maps 5. So these are a lot of calculations for the pullbacks that we wanted to avoid in this talk. So we only want to present the results. So the pullbacks GKs are given by this by this expression. So the important thing here is that the differentials are given by action of elements of these elements x -1, 0, and 2. So this is the most important thing to do the calculations for the spectrum of the double Dirac. So, and this is actually a complex. It's actually the differential calculus over V of degree 3. So I think it's important to mention here that this calculus is isomorphic to the calculus obtained by Heckenberger-Kohl. So it's the same calculus. So now we are going to give the construction of the Hilbert space. So for this, we recall the Peter-Weyl theorem. So this celebrates the Peter-Weyl theorem. Tells us that the quantum group SO5 is generated by the matrix coefficients for of irreducible OQSFI co-representations of SO5. So we denote this matrix coefficients as T, where for fixed mu we have the linear space generated by this is isomorphic to the right regular representation, and for fixed lambda, this the space generated by the T's is isomorphic to the left regular representation of QSFI. So we have more notation here. So from the Peter Weil, the composition from this factor of the tensor product of the right representation of the left representation, we denote the space of we consider the elements of QSFI which belong to a representation of highest weight and L with respect to the left and right representation of OQSO phi on OQSO phi, and also they have to belong to a representation of highest weight and J with respect to the left OQL action of with respect to the OQL representation. So and we denote by this notation the space of weight vectors, and this space will help us to give a good description of the N forms. So, but first, I'm going to define an inner product for our space of N forms. So for the zero and third forms, we define the inner product only by the inner product induced by the hard state, and for the 1 and 2 forms, we define the inner product only by the higher state in the A's and B's. So the higher state allows us to define an inner product in the space of forms. And here the C's 1G and 2G are only positive numbers. So, and we define the Hilbert space as a completion of the omega zero bullet with respect to this inner product. So, if we want to have more symmetry in our space of N forms, we have to define a right representation. So this the right representation of OQSFI acting of SOQ5 gives us a right representation of the space of N forms. So, and also this right representation commutes with the differential. So the in the previous slides, I mentioned that the space of N forms are parameterized in some way by the highest weight vector by these B's. Oh, sorry. And so by the zero the n forms we have decomposition in highest weight forms in where the dimension of this space of B's is not not zero. So this decomposition and the right and the right representations will help us to calculate the spectrum of the Dirac operator. So this space of highest weights of n forms are parameterized by these highest weight vectors of SOQ in OSOQ5. So and actually we have an isomorphism between this space of n forms and this space of highest weight. So this
Category is that isomorphism? It's an isomorphism of what? Of modules over UQ.
not only as a space with inner product. So
It's
here we
inner
have
product spaces. Okay.
this is a subspace of SOQ5. So
Mhm,
this
mhm.
is in SOQ5 we have the inner product given by the
With our measure, yeah. But it also
Harshman.
carries a representation.
Sorry.
It carries a represent. I mean, both of them carry representations, but it doesn't matter. No, it's okay.
Yeah, and yeah, and here we have the inner product that we define this present slide. So there are many calculations here, but I'm not going to into details because of the time. So we denote these isomorphisms by this case. So and now we want to have an expression of this of the differential both in this space in these spaces of the highest weight. So in these spaces, the differential are given by this form this expression. Here, the most important, again, I'm going to say that the most important thing is that the actions are given by action of this X are given by actions of OQ of elements of OQSFI, and projections are only projections on this space of highest weights. So at first, this X0B is not in this space. So we need to do a projections in the correct space of in the correct space. So and these projections can be given by actions. So this is the good property of this approach of the BGG. So similarly, we have similar expressions for the adjoints. So they are also given by actions of F, and the projections are these projections. And also the adjoint commutes with our right representation. So finally, I'm going to mention or to show you the spectrum of the Dirac operator. So in this part of this work, there were a lot of calculations for the eigenvalues of this map. So the important thing here is that these the eigenvalues of these maps we can call them Laplacian. These eigenvalues, the knowledge of these eigenvalues allows us to calculate the complete spectrum for the Dirac for the double Dirac operator E plus D jacket. So with these numbers, we have that the spectrum is given by these square roots. So and the multiplicities are given by this formula. These are these are the formulas for the dimension of the representation. These multiplicities can be obtained by the formula for the representation for the dimension of representation of the OQG representation. So here the condition of the commutator of the bounded commutator is not so difficult to prove. And here we use the property of the and for the bounded commutator we use the Leibniz rule property of the differential d bar, and so we have it that directly in some way. So we also have a right representation of the algebra B of my quantum Planck manifold. So this representation is only by restricting the right representation over the algebra B, because B is a subset of it's a subalgebra of so Q5. So in this right representation satisfies this condition, this compatibility condition. So from this we say that we have from this property we are going to have an equivariant spectral triple for our quantum Planck manifold. So finally, we put all the results together. So, but before we define what the dimension of a spectral triple is. So we say that a spectral triple is 0 plus summable, or we can say here n plus summable if this operator 1 plus 1 plus the modulus t with power minus t yields a trace class of operator for all t greater than 0 or greater than n, if we want a general definition. So finally we have this theorem. We say that with this Dolbeault-Dirac operator, t plus d adjoint d, if this operator is a self-adjoint operator, which spectrum has exponential growth. So our spectral triple is given by B, the quantum Planck manifold, the Hilbert space of 0n forms, the Dolbeault-Dirac operator, and the grading, which is where this grading is acting on the space of forms by multiplication of -1. So, and by the form of the eigenvalues values of the Dirac operator, we have the we have that the zero plot summability is because we have because the multiplicities grows as a polynomial entry L3. So and this growth of the multiplicities doesn't affect the growth of the spectrum. So because the quantum numbers grows much faster than the multiplicities. So that's why we have a zero plus summability. So now remains the question of the other quantum Planck manifolds. So the question about the spectrum is an open problem for the other families of quantum Planck manifolds. So we only have the smallest case in the B series. So we still don't know what is the behavior of the spectrum for the general B. So we only have for the B2 now. So and the other we also have the for the other families. So and it is an open problem so far. So and that's all I wanted to say to start.
Okay, very well. Thank you for the talk. Are there questions from the audience or from anybody online? My computer's after dying, so I'm going to rely on you, Karen, to pass on the online question.
The Q only shows up in the spectrum of the Dirac operator.
The question is, what is the role of the Q parameter?
Spectrum.
So we are going to have a different spectrum. So because the Q, because the quantum numbers are given by the Qs. So for different Qs, we have different values. Yeah. Oh.
So one thing though is that, again, restricting to real Q, the multiplicities will remain the same. but then how the relation, I don't know, you probably answered this better than I would. I mean, the eigenvalue growth is still going to be the same, even though, I mean, the integers are going to be different because it's a different value of Q. The multiplicities are the same, but that shouldn't affect the growth, no? It will still be 0 plus. Maybe you even have more experience.
So maybe the fact that you introduce the parameter QF for the other homogeneous quantum spaces can influence the dimensionality axiom of the spectral triple. So to say the density of eigenvalues might change actually. But it's yeah, exactly. And yeah, exactly. That's probably what's going to happen.
If we take the limit of Q to 1, we obtain the classical.
There's a question in the chat from Branimir who says, obnoxiously predictive a question. Do we know if we get a non-trivial K-homology class?
Oh, I don't see. Or can you repeat the question? Or can you repeat the question?
Do you want to
Yeah, let me pipe in. Yeah, so you have a spectral triple. So in principle, you should have a class in K homology. Do you know if this class is non-zero? Like, do you have a non-trivial pairing with anything?
Freddie, do you mind if I answer that, or do you want to answer? Maybe I'll give my answer first to let you collect your thoughts. So if you look at it from the point of view of the Kähler structure, then you know that the index of this operator is going to be equal to the Dalbo cohomology. We know from, I guess, from the non-commutative coderivative vanishing theorem that the higher cohomologies vanish. So the index is going to be concentrated in degree 0, and we know that the calculus is what's called connected. So the first cohomology group is one-dimensional, which means that the index of the operator is 1. So it will have non-trivial K-homology class.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so we didn't pair it with anything. I mean, I guess that's the usual way, but looking at it maybe the more geometric point of view, you try to turn the index into cohomology and use the geometry to prove that it's an alternative. But yeah, we do have non-zero pairing.
Okay. No, but the Euler characteristic picture, I mean, it's really nice. So it's a really cool way to think about it. But thank you.
So do we have any more questions from the audience or the virtual audience? Okay, if not, then I guess we'll thank Freddie again. Yeah, next week there's a institute trip to Pilsen, so for mathematical reasons. So there will be no seminar next week, but the seminar will resume the week after. And again, as usual, all the details are on the website. So again, thank you for attending, and talk to you in 2 weeks.